sending the live, and we start. Maybe. All right. Well, faccio già la condivisione? Parto con la condivisione? Perfetto.
I don't have anything secret to communicate before publication. Going public, let's say.
Okay.
First page.
Right.
Okay. Very good. So, nice to meeting you. Actually, I am Guido Bernardi, Vice President at CAE. CAE is a family firm. It was established over 40 years ago by 4 engineers. One of them is my father. He's the president of the company. After some years of working experience outside our family business, I went back to Bologna, and now I am vice president, mostly in charge of external relations, including international development. Of course, we have international sales staff, international project office, and project managers. We work abroad, as you will see in the presentation. I tried my best not to prepare a presentation which is a commercial of our company or some products, which, by the way, you can check on our website. So all of the products are on our website. I rather thought of a presentation which is a way to transfer to you our experience. So mostly centered on the Italian experience. I am in some way trying to communicate and to transmit the experience of the Italian civil protection. Now we have one person from the regional civil protection of Umbria entering the room. Buongiorno. So it is not exactly my role. I'm a company, actually, I'm a businessman, but I feel like a mission also, this target to transmit something more rather than just selling our products. This is our company. It's based in Bologna. Bologna is the city famous. It's very nearby the factory of Ferrari, of Lamborghini, Ducati motorbikes. We also have a very important packaging business in our valley, let's say. And then there is also CAE, also working with electronics, mechanics, informatics. So it's very challenging to attract competences beside these very famous companies, but this is what we do. Our mission is to contribute to creating a world that is more prepared to the risks that communities face with regards to multiple natural events and hazards, thanks to our unique mix of expertise, innovation, and commitment. We actually are 111 people. Okay. We have sales, innovation and technology, so technical support and internal technical support office, and research and development, 21 people. Operations, 44 people. Supply chain, 21, including production. 25, actually, I think now we are 28 engineers, mostly electronic, telecommunications, electric and informatics engineers. We also have some 3 geologists, some environmental engineers, and so on. Our directors for each of these areas of the company are below, let's say, 50 years old. So now it's a young company. In the last 10 years, we step by step, we modernized the structure and also the management. So why I skipped some paragraph of our mission presentation? Because now it becomes much more clear thanks to this slide. Whenever there is an environment to be monitored and maybe some risk scenarios within that environment, and there is a user who needs to know how a phenomena is evolving in order to make decisions in real time to mitigate some risks, the user, then CAE helps the final user to configure and produce and install and activate a monitoring solution, which usually in most of the cases it's like a hydrometeorological station, rain gauge, geotechnical station. We will see something more later. So how to configure it, engineering the solution at the ground, install, activate, and we help to establish a communication network, which in most of the cases is not only one technology, but at least two technologies to, on one side, manage the system at the ground remotely, on the other side, collect data. I don't know if you ever had to deal with meteorological or hydrometeorological or hydrological monitoring networks. Did you? None of you? Okay. I traveled, okay, there's a big difference between what we do in Italy and what in many other countries they or you do. And now this is my time to highlight this difference. In Italy, we have a long experience of civil protection, let's say, work in order to mitigate natural hazards, flash floods, landslides. I'm mostly focusing on this part, like urban flooding or this kind of things. When we talk about these things, there's one point. You need to have data in your office to make decisions in real time, which means you need data when it is necessary, which most of the cases it's during thunderstorm, during bad weather, during emergencies, exactly when the common shared communication lines like a mobile usually don't work. Or let's say if these systems like the mobile works 356 days per year or even 364 days, maybe the only day it doesn't work, it is exactly when the decision maker needs to have this data during the thunderstorm. Okay, this is also happening in Italy now, recently. It is not something I am now, let's say, fitting into the developing countries' mobile network situation. It's now here in Italy. During emergencies, it happens to lose the communication of mobile. So when you really need data, so you are installing a monitoring system for civil protection scopes, it is very important to think of at least two communication technologies. For example, satellite and mobile. For example, radio and mobile, radio and satellite, whatever you want, at least two of the three. This is very, very important message I want to give you, because whenever I travel abroad, especially in developing countries, whenever the UNDP finance a new project, World Bank finance a new project, Asian Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank, whoever finance a new project, the local designer of the system, even though it is dedicated to mitigate natural hazard, he will be naturally pushed to think, if I have mobile coverage, let's use only the mobile. I save some money and I buy one more station. I have hundreds of stations. Whatever you, what the hell do you do with hundreds of stations if they don't transmit data in real time during emergencies? This is my question. So please keep in mind forever this experience, which comes from the Italian past, let's say, and present experience. What do we do with respect of all of these things? Conception and development, including research and development. Production, we have part of the production, partially it's by third parties, our suppliers. Design, local design, as I said, the configuration of the installation at local level. Installation and startup of these automatic station systems, blah, 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 and so on. Maintenance. Maintenance means not only going there inside to do the maintenance, specialistic, or even the basic maintenance, depending on the contract with the client. We also do, and it is very important to do it, remote maintenance in order to solve problems even before then starting to miss data. So you don't miss data. The client doesn't miss data. We do our best to find out potential failures like battery, which is not anymore providing energy, and we see the data some days earlier than the breakout, missing the data, and we go to fix it. If, for example, or whatever it is, we find out a problem, we fix it, if possible, remotely, otherwise inside, we go to fix it. So once again, in order to do this maintenance, it is very important to have a two-way communication with the station inside. In many countries abroad, especially large areas, in developing countries and so on, sometimes they say, okay, but I can get data every hour by satellite with GOES or whatever other satellite communication network. One direction communication, okay. And if you rely on something like that, you cannot do remote maintenance, because it is just a way to collect a data every hour or every 6 hours or every half an hour, depending. But you cannot do maintenance in the other way around. And it is dramatic for the reliability of the system, because if you realize that there is something wrong in a station which is 400 kilometers far away from your office, you will never go there the day after. You will go there after 2 weeks when it is convenient to go, and it is very expensive. Finally, you don't solve the problems. If in the meantime you have a flood, you are missing the flood, basically. If it is one flood every 3 years, the other 3 years, basically, you could not have the system. It was not necessary. You only needed during that flood, okay? This is our company in the last years. We grew from 11 million euro business to 19 last year in the last 7 years, and from 92 employees to 111. So basically we are growing now. Applications, extreme weather events, intense precipitation, heat waves, high winds, offshore monitoring, coastal monitoring, snow and avalanche, water and hydrological risk-related phenomena, floods, flash floods, defense works, so data useful to manage drainage or gates, dams, and so on, urban flooding management and mitigation, geological and hydrogeological risk, multiple slides, so regional networks for monitoring landslides, individual monitoring system for rotational and translational slides, debris flow, rock falls, embankment instability, and so on. And then we also have some specific solutions for water pollution in strategic reservoirs and wildfire early detection. But we are not going to go through these specific applications. CAE in figures, over 7,000 in the history of our company, 45 years, we provided over 7,000 automatic stations, data loggers, powering system, communication technology, and so on. 750 UHF radio repeaters, 4,000, over 4,000 water level sensors, rain gauge, and so on. Today in Italy, we are also maintaining 37 networks and 2,600 automatic stations within these 37 networks, 2,600 automatic stations, which are currently maintained by our staff in Italy. Let me highlight that within these 37 networks, there are 15,000 measurement sensors transmitting with reliability above 98% of data, let's say within 1 hour from the detection, to give an idea. 53 landslides equipped with monitoring and early warning systems covered by CAE maintenance services now. Italian stations currently maintained by CAE, not provided. This is currently maintained by CAE. If we could see provided by CAE, it would be basically the whole country. But this is not to go into very detailed figures, but this is to say we work abroad also. We work abroad, let's say 25–30% of our business every year is abroad, new business. Let me just show you some projects. Our second country, our second market after Italy is Vietnam. So just to give you an idea, some projects we delivered, implemented in Vietnam through the years. Italian ODA, so basically a bilateral cooperation with Italian Foreign Ministry with Vietnam, improving flood forecasting and warning systems in Vietnam. 75 automatic weather stations, including UHF and mobile communication system, 42 hydrological monitoring stations and rain gauge, 15 only rain gauge, 1 marine, 17 meteorological, we will see, and so on. In 2012, satellite and mobile, 101 automatic stations financed by the World Bank. World Bank also in 2016, and so on. So basically abroad, most of the times we participate in tender financed by multilateral or bilateral financial institutions or cooperation institutions, it depends. In Vietnam, this was very successful. These are all the stations installed in the last, let's say, 15 years in the country. We work so successfully in this country that during the 75th year of the Vietnam Meteorological and Hydrological Sector celebration, the Minister of Environment came to visit our booth and spend some time with us and so on, because somehow we contribute with our technology, expertise and everything to the development of something important for the country. A list of projects so that you can simply see the countries and the titles. Buenos Aires, Georgia with a dam monitoring and early warning system. Then Vietnam, again, real-time river discharge measurements and new monitoring stations. Maldives, green light to the expansion of national meteorological, of course, network, 25 new stations. We work a lot in Serbia, which is our third country. So Italy, Vietnam, Serbia. Maldives, Belgrade, flood monitoring and warning system made in Italy, as we state proudly. Early warning system in the city of Udice, again in Serbia. Kyrgyzstan, modernization of the Central Asian hydrometeorological monitoring system. And then Tajikistan, Pakistan. Pakistan, very important project. Addressed to the aimed at the mitigation of the glacial lake outburst floods, which is a major problem in the mountain area. We are supplier of a huge number of automatic stations, warning posts and equipment and blah, blah, and some services, but actually installations is not in our hand. So we provided a lot of technology, let's say. Now we are going through geological and hydrogeological risk mitigation system, risk due to extreme weather events, and water and hydrological risk. We forget about the other two things. This is a typical weather station made by CAE for clients in Italy or abroad seeking the monitoring of meteorological parameters according to the World Meteorological Organization standard, WMO standard. Have you ever heard about WMO? 1, 2. World Meteorological Organization in Geneva, I think. None of you? WMO is the United Nations organization which tries to put together and connect the national meteorological and hydrological monitoring agencies of all the countries in the world. They try to set some rules, some standards, some technical guidelines, and so on. Okay, of course, our Italian clients try to follow what the WMO standard suggests. One of these suggestions is that the wind speed and direction should be monitored at 10 meters high in a free space, in some site with some conditions, of course. So this is an example, 10 meters high mast. The wind speed and direction is measured on the top. You can notice a radio antenna, maybe also a solar panel, thermometers, and so on. These are other examples, a portable mobile monitoring station and a meteorological station, and with the protected site with the fence. You can see the rain gauge. You can see once again the 10-meter high mast. You can see a evapotranspiration pan at the ground to measure evapotranspiration. This is a specific product of us. Okay, this is a product. It's a rain gauge with batteries. That's it. Transmission module, it is within the rain gauge. So basically, you don't need to build a new automatic monitoring station with a rain gauge. You only put this rain gauge in wherever you want, on a mast or at the ground. You turn it on and it transmits data to your office, basically, with batteries inside. No solar panel, nothing. It's very simple, makes installation procedure very easy. Of course, the only transmission technology of this sensor is mobile. So it is not, as I said before, a redundant telecommunication system. It is only one communication system. It's a limited possibility. These are hydrological monitoring stations. Just to know, have you ever seen a meteorological station before? Yes. I was about to tell you. if you walked until here with open eyes, you saw one of these meteorological stations on your right, I think. It is a traditional meteorological station. Ours are automatic, but yes, there is a. These are hydrological monitoring stations. So this, in the pictures, most of the times are on some bridge or some, let's say, work. Anyway. These stations are all based on non-contact sensor, this one in the picture. So basically there's a sensor based either on ultrasonic or radar technology, watching downward from the sensor to the water. They measure the distance between themselves and the water. Of course, there is an offset according to the distance of the basically the river bed. So by difference, the sensor calculates the level of water, how that the water is. And this data is basically input for discharge calculation by our client, which is very important to calculate the discharge in order to calculate maybe some kilometers downward in the valley if the water is too much or it is, let's say, above or below a bridge or above or below the dikes or whatever it is. So it is very important. Another technology is based on pressure measurement. So in this case, you have a sensor submerged underwater, calculating or measuring how much water is above the sensor. So the sensor is on the riverbed and it measures the water above it. Of course, the non-submerged sensor is more robust because during the flood, if it is high enough, it will be not ruined or the other one depends. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes. Okay. Whatever we saw until now basically are stations composing monitoring networks, transmitting data through different technologies, as I said, to a decision maker, the office on the top right of the slide. And that office decides whether to activate alarms, bulletins, basically. It compiles bulletins, makes some forecasts, warning system, and blah, blah. One of the most developed monitoring networks, for me, are traditional, even though automatic, but still, for me, the point is these are automatic monitoring networks, which, from my point of view, are traditional monitoring network is Piedmont region. I want to show you this monitoring network. Why? Because it is at the very beginning of the Po River, which is the biggest river of Italy. So it's one of the most important. There are a lot of mountains in the northwest of Italy, Alpine region, and so it's a crucial place for the Po River, and it is full of automatic stations, which are the data. Let me stress, this is from the website of ARPA Piemonte, so it's a regional administration public data available where you can see whatever is generated by these networks, which are provided by CAE, by the way, to this regional administration of them. Within this network, they are operating different generations of technology. In this case, everything provided by CAE. 80s, SP200, early 2000, SPM20, 2013, starting from 2013, a new generation of automatic stations, and so on. So they are operating a system which includes different generations of technology. Another large network is the one of Emilia-Romagna. We are now following the Po River, and also the network of Emilia-Romagna is one of the networks provided by CAE. Also, Umbria region is serviced by our company. Now I wanted to show you this. Why? Because you can see two circles. What do you think they are? What do you think two round circles are? Sorry. No. Let's say those two circles represent the visibility, the coverage of two meteorological radars operated by Emilia-Romagna region. Okay, so why they put it together in the same chart, in the same map? Because they want to stress that all of these technologies, we don't provide meteorological radar, just to be clear, but I want just to transmit the concept, to explain the idea. The client combines meteorological data measured at the ground, meteorological stations, hydrological stations, so on, with radar observation. Okay, in order to have an accurate and distributed observation of the territory and the condition. Monitoring networks are multi-purpose as measured data support hydropower management, agriculture, irrigation, drinking water production. However, in countries like Italy, the leading design criteria depends on the needs of natural hazard mitigation activities. Measured data are necessary inputs for alerts and warning bulletins. Now, let me show you what happened, let's say, almost 10 years ago now in Parma, which is a city of Emilia-Romagna, during a flood. You see there's an automatic station on the bridge. That's working to measure the level of water. You see also it is an extreme condition, okay? The idea is these systems must work during these extreme conditions. During this flood, the whole mobile and telephone network was not working for over 1 day. because the central office of the telecommunication company was flooded. Okay, and still data were flowing to our client thanks to the radio network. They could decide how to use hydraulic works in order to mitigate the flood at their best, thanks to this data. Real-time monitoring systems contribute to better decision-making during emergencies. These are bulletins, okay? Examples of bulletins. In Italy, it is very common to use the colors to indicate the degree of risk, the probability, likelihood of bad event compared to several different risk scenarios. So and also you see also abroad, this is a Serbian bulletin. So just to give you an idea that bulletins describe the expected evolution of a natural phenomena over following 6 to 48 hours, focusing on the effects of the phenomena at the ground. Scenarios include large geographical areas, assuming homogeneous conditions within it. Local risk scenarios cannot be considered individually. Is it clear? Regional, times it is a national administration issue bulletins. Most of the time in Italy and also abroad it is daily bulletin to activate some status within the local organization to mitigate the effect of a natural phenomenon. Like in the United States, you hear like they warn for a hurricane or whatever for the next 3 days. In Italy, phenomena are much, most of the times are much shorter and smaller, so it's difficult to say it with 3 days advance. But maybe you can see it for the day after, like yellow warning, orange warning, red warning, whatever. And you have this bulletin, but this bulletin is still addressed to the whole territory. In Serbia, it is a country level. In Italy, it is at regional level, but still it is not valley level, river level, catchment level. No, it is regional level. So how a bulletin is created? You have meteorological forecasting model as an input, meteorological forecasting model as an input. You have radar observation. You have real-time monitoring system. Then all of these data are processed by hydraulic modeling, hydrological modeling, risks map, experience and competence of the forecaster or anyway the person who's working there, and then they produce, our clients, a bulletin. CAE works on the right pole, which is the real-time monitoring system at the ground stations. Institutional issues of this this process works well if the institutions have a clear responsibility over their responsibility over their duties. Institutional setting, therefore, the definition of who does what is crucial. Each country sets specific responsibilities on selected state departments and agencies. In Italy, the functional center network plays a major role. Depending on the type and size of the risk scenario, then the emergency will be national, regional, local. The emergency response will be coordinated by the related level of the government. But the ultimate responsible authority for the citizen safety will be, however, anyway, always on the town and city mayor. So, functional centers, a regional level, issue the bulletin, but anyway, the responsibility for the safety of people is always on the shoulder of the city mayor. So, operational issues. Citizens, local authorities, and organizations must understand the warning messages and know what to do. Technical limits. The whole process takes time, and updates are very likely to be 12 or 6 hours at shortest during emergencies. And this fits the traditional floods of the big rivers, big and medium rivers. But flash floods and local phenomena, which usually happen in shortest time, may require something different and additional. Is it clear the point? We saw the creation of a bulletin as a process to activate a special behavior of the people in the dangerous and risk scenarios living in the. If you are talking about a big river, if you have 12 hours advancement or 24 hours time to arrange something, you have the time to do it. For small catchments, which sometimes are very dangerous, you don't have 12 hours to decide what to do and to do it. So we elaborated a new concept, which is each and every automatic station composing the regional network can also be used as a real-time monitoring and early warning system at local level. This is due to two specific technological evolutions. One is the wide usage of wireless to collect data from a wide area around the station. So you have one station, wireless sensor around it, 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. You collect data all within this automatic station, and there you can already make a decision. And this is the second technological advancement, high computing power at local level within the automatic station. And then this station, beside the transmitting data to the office, as they always did until now, it is also able to activate alarms locally for local risk scenarios. Well, how much time do we have? It's 10 now. Half an hour. Okay. Let me show you that we started with this approach already in the year 2000, even though it is, let's say, much more developed now, this approach of local monitoring and early warning system integrated within the regional networks. We started in the year 2000. Why? Because the Cesenatico, which is a little town on the seaside of the Adriatic Sea in Italy, in the Romagna region, one of the places flooded in May in Italy. They have a channel, a seaport, which is actually a channel within the town. So they have this problem with water, inland water and sea water. In special meteorological conditions, they flood the town, okay? So they asked us to install several automatic stations on one side to have data in order to manage a gate which regulates and balances the water level of the seaport within the town with the water of the sea itself. So in order to manage properly this gate, they need data. And we installed several automatic stations according to a project, and they want to use this data, and they used this data also as a warning system connected to the bell of the church. So On the tower of the church, there's a bell on the top ringing when the situation is becoming dangerous. Okay. This is one of the automatic stations, just to show you what we are talking about. This is the sensor with no contact with water. This is in 2018 a title of a web page. There's an article, which is the town. People is alarmed by the bell of the church. So this is, I wanted to show you this title, which is also replicated in another event a few weeks later. Also speaking about the ring of the bell ringing. Why? Because this is very important. We learn something from this title. We are learning that people actually understood the message. They know, newspaper knows, people knows, when the bell rings, it is a dangerous situation. It is not something which is always happening. So the way you deliver the message to people is crucial. If people doesn't understand the message, you can tell them whatever. If they don't understand, they will not save their life. So now I'm giving you some experience. We learned about local early warning system, the crucial point of how you warn people. And why I tell you this? You know that in Italy, we had a huge flood of Florence city in 1966. I studied on Wikipedia because I am younger. I studied on Wikipedia, and I'm not an hydraulic engineer, so they didn't teach me at the university. I read on Wikipedia that during the flood, it is in Italian, unfortunately, but back at that time, the priest of a local church who got the warning from another priest of another church knew from his friend that the water was going to flood the district of his church. So during the night, he rang the bells, and in Wikipedia they write, but people didn't trust him, didn't understand, didn't trust him. So nobody really cared because they didn't know this was a warning message. And then when I read this, I connected immediately to the title of Cesenatico, because in Cesenatico, eventually, 50 years later, people was taught how to understand this message. And whenever you will do a local early warning system, you will need to take care of this. It's crucial. And we will see another case of this problem of understanding the message connected to flooded underpasses. I don't know if in your countries it happens. In Italy, it happens. We have underpasses, a lot of underpasses, because of crossing roads or railways or whatever. And in the underpass, most of the times, during thunderstorms, you have accumulated water rising, and many times it happens that somebody dies into the underpass, flooded underpass. Why? Because it is sufficient to have 50 centimeters of water and the car starts floating. So you cannot anymore move here and there. In the night, especially, it is difficult to understand if you have 40 centimeters, 20 or 50. So they cross, the car starts floating. If the water still rises, then the pressure doesn't allow you to open the door. You cannot open the door. So either you break the window, but you must be powerful to do it, or you die into the car. So it happened in a specific place close in central Italy. We were called some years later to implement a project of early warning in underpasses. We realized it. You see the warning post with the message installed there, some underpasses. There are sensors, more than one sensor for each underpass in order to avoid false alarms, false positive and false negative. False positive, false negative are avoided thanks to redundant sensors, and the message is there. Okay, so you will think that finally, after the application of this underpass, everything is fine. Is it clear? Where the water is rising, the message tells you not to cross, you don't cross, and you are safe. Let's see what we can see thanks to the camera, because each of these system is operating a camera. This is a sequence of picture, okay? You see that at a certain point it starts raining, and the panel there is telling people not to cross. People cross. They don't care until one stucks there. Okay. And finally, it didn't. The lady didn't die. They were the rescue team took them out of the water. And okay. In this case, we are learning two things. One thing is already evident. So the message was not understood. It was not clearly understood that it was dangerous to cross with this message on. So something must change, otherwise next time it's not useful. The second thing we are learning, it is not now, but it's thanks to what I'm telling you now, is that the insurance of the lady tried to sue the city mayor, but the city mayor could show that the system worked properly, so they were not responsible for nothing. Actually, they did their job, so it is very safe to track with pictures or movies the operation of this kind of systems. I skip another movie which is about another flooded underpass early warnings or warning system, but I want to show you the picture. The next one was realized using a red light, trying to simplify the message. A red light. It is not like do not drive here a signal, but it is a red traffic light, trying to simplify. It is also much cheaper. So I tried to simplify the message. Okay. Also in this system, you can see redundant sensors. Redundant sensors are necessary, as I repeat it once again, to avoid missing positive or false positive, which are the very problem of the local early warning system, because at the third time you have a false positive, people will never ever anymore trust the message. The first time you have a missing positive, maybe somebody dies, the city mayor goes to jail, our client he will be not happy. So it's a problem. Let me go. In this case, this technology is very convenient because it doesn't require any software in the office of the client. Everything can be monitored thanks to the web server, which is on board the automatic station. Okay, but this is just a technical thing, technological thing. Another example of flash flood in this case, another place where they had people dying because of flash flood. it's this little channel, let's say river, torrent, whatever, beside the street, gets flooded sometimes in special conditions, and the water can rise up to the street. And this caused a death. And then there was an investment in this early warning system made up of water level, as you can see on the upright, and rain gauge. In this case, the double check to avoid the false positive is made up thanks to rain gauge and water level data merging, because if it didn't rain in the last 6 hours, and now just making an hypothesis, it's impossible that the water level is high enough to get to the street. So in order to avoid a fake or wrong measurement of the water level because of an animal walking beneath the sensor, activating the water level alarm, it cannot spread the alarm if it was not raining. Okay, just to give you an idea of the logics. Okay, in this case, let me highlight one point. You have traffic lights, you have sensors. Locally, the system is autonomous. Still, the client wants to be able to manage it and receive data from the central office, in this case, in the city of Bologna. So there is a mobile communication module to do maintenance, to read the data, to understand what's the situation. But let me highlight once again, the main target of this system is performed locally. You don't need data to be processed in the office. So one communication module, one technology, mobile, is enough and sufficient, because the main scope is performed locally. This is another risk scenario. See, the town of Ottone in the Apennine Mountains. Debris flow, flash flood, also in this case a square flooded with debris and everything. Rain gauge monitoring system. In this case, they say there was 4 days of mobile communication, 4 days off in the valley during the bad weather. So also in this case, the local early warning system is autonomous because the rain there is measured there, and the rain measured there triggers the alarms, sirens at local level, so autonomous. But in this case, the rain measured there was very important also to the Emilia-Romagna regional administration in order to calculate the potential, the evolution of the flood for the river Trebbia river. So they want to have this data included into their regional monitoring networks. And so they added a radio communication module beside the mobile. 2 communication modules, radio and mobile. Almost. Okay, now we get to the landslides. Landslides, in this case, a debris flow, which is in Dolomites, close to Cortina, which will host the Olympics, Winter Olympics in some years. This debris flow caused some casualties and deaths in 2009. I'm not going into the scientific details, which are mostly your competence. I'm once again highlighting the technological. No, it's not. It is the commissioning of the system. So when it was delivered, the system to our client, the technicians came to verify the functionality of the system, the operation. They assessed everything and they finally approved, chopped, signed all the papers. And we took a movie. Pure Ingon. Intervento della comunicazione. No, intervento la presentazione. Ok? Now you will see also the sirens. This is the message coming, so they tested the messaging system. We are getting downward through the mountain, through the debris flow to the town, closer to the town. It started from the top. Cameras. Sirens. Traffic lights. Okay, the very last chapter is our invoice to the clients. C'è un ritorno da lì. Try to guess how much time, how long does it take for the debris flow when it starts to hit the first house?
Puoi andare?
8 minutes. 8, 9, depending. So the system must be able to detect without mistakes the debris flow and warn the mayor, the staff, and possibly the population in less than 7 minutes.
Why? Because at least 1 minute to climb the stairs of your home necessary to get to the second floor. Okay, because the main is whenever you are warned either by the sirens or message, climb to the second floor of your home. That's it. There's no another message. It's very simple as a safety behavior. The last technology we are now going through is also about landslides, but not debris flow, rather than talking about slower landslides, which in Italy are very frequent in places like these ones, these environments, rotational, translational. I'm not a geologist, so I'm not an expert of the different types of phenomena, but we are experts of the technology which you can use to monitor this phenomena with geotechnical sensor. We developed a wireless network system, which we have been using for over 10 years now, which is very reliable, and it is used to collect data from different sensors installed through the landslide up to the monitoring station. So basically you can have 10, 20, 30 monitoring sensors according to the project of the geologist or the geotechnical engineer. They decide what to monitor and where. Sensors can be put there with a battery and this wireless module. And then this data will flow from one module to the other, repeating the message through the
Foto.
Poco durante la
still myself up to this monitoring station. So you put the monitoring station in a safe area, like outside the landslide. You put a lot of sensors and wireless modules in the landslide, and data will flow to the automatic station. The automatic station on one side will transmit this data to the office. On the other side, the automatic station can already there locally process this data, first process. If it makes sense, it can also trigger local alarms. Why it is important to have this possibility? Because sometimes going to the office, process data, and go back to the local risk scenario with the alert, it takes too much time. So you simply don't have the time, or it is vulnerable because of the weather condition and the telecommunication network. So having the possibility to process data to the local, these are all geotechnical sensors which can be, there's something going on. I'm finished. Yeah. We are really to the last part. These are geotechnical sensors which can be placed according to your project on the landslide. We are able to activate this collecting system, data collection system.
Yep, it's back.
No, it doesn't go on. Non va avanti.
C'è qualcosa che... Ok. Intanto se vuole...
Ma non so...
non so dove storici.
Le conclusioni, conclusions basically.
Ok.
Now there's one application just to have an idea. Why may you need a landslide monitoring network like this? In historical centers, but I see also in many villages, in many countries abroad, houses were built through the centuries, also in dangerous sliding sometimes. So whenever the slide gets deactivated because of some different rainfall regime or whatever, so the land starts to move, you have some damage to the houses or the streets or whatever, and you want to know the situation, you can install the system. This system has two functionalities, but two scopes. One is to, whenever the slide starts to move too much, to let the people get out of their houses. The second, more important, to let the people stay into their houses as long as possible. Otherwise, if you don't have measured that in real time, you have to evacuate the area at the very first movements of the landslide. When you see the very first movements, you don't know what's happening. You have to people move out of their houses. The mayor usually is not happy about moving people out of their houses because in Italy, the mayor is elected by the citizens and the citizen doesn't like to move out of their houses. So, thanks to this system, people can stay into their houses as much as possible until it is not very risky to stay there. So, depending on the usage, it can be an alerting and evacuation signal, but also the demonstration that people can stay until a certain point within their houses.
No. È troppo pesante, si blocca. Lo so.
Well, anyway, let me do the conclusion with, I can try to do the conclusions without the text. My idea was today to drop some message to you. Very last 5 seconds. Okay, there, okay. Let me drop.
Let me share. Ok. Perché praticamente questa? Ok. Si vede dietro?
No.
Fantastico. Qualcosa, c'è qualcosa che non va.
La guardo almeno io così da...
Ok. Ci proviamo. Non c'ho voglia.
No, ma non se la vedo io non c'è problema.
Ok.
Non riesce adesso. Ecco così. Basta. Last messages. And then I stop bothering. One day, should you be in charge of proposing a non-structural solution for mitigating a local natural hazard, additionally to all the scientific factors which are not under our control, our company, please consider that automatic stations included into the real-time networks dedicated to hydrological and meteorological network, monitoring network, are ready to become active tools to alert citizens when predetermined scenarios occur. Sirens, short message system, SMS, mobile app, traffic lights can be integrated as part of the local alerting system. Regardless of using existing automatic stations or designing a new local monitoring and early warning system, remember that these systems need to have an owner administration responsible for it. It is crucial that an administration feels as the owner of that system. There must be a director, chief technical director of that system. Otherwise, that system will never work. Trust me.
be properly maintained. So a budget must be allocated. So this technical director, which might be you one day, must maybe hired by the local authorities, hired by the geological service, hired by the civil defense department of your country. Maybe you will be charged. Okay, good. There is one person in charge. That person in charge must care about the budget for maintenance. Otherwise, you do the installation and the very next year, the system will not work anymore. It is crucial to purchase the system as a system and not as a sum of a group of goods. It is not a group of goods you are just putting it together. It is a system, another crucial message. And be included into updated local civil protection plans. It is in Italy is a crucial issue. And be explained to population. Finally, one day, should you be in charge of proposing, again, a non-structural solution, please bear in mind that local alerting system should be designed to work properly during extreme weather, so independent power supply for each and all elements, independent and redundant communication system, especially with regard to the main scope of the system, limited false positive, limited missed positive, and activate simple alerting messages. And last but not least, call us.
You will always have our website
Card or whoever, call us. Thank you.
So we have a problem. Okay, we start now. Nicola, ti faccio partire la condivisione già direttamente? Ok. No, beh, certo, se la apro magari viene meglio. Ok. Okay, so now we have engineer Nicola Berni. He works for the region of Umbria. He's been working for 15 years in the regional civil protection system. I mean, and is the place where we are going this afternoon. So he's been working there for 15 years. Now he's in another section of the region Umbria, but it will explain to us the civil protection multi-risk planning in Umbria region. So I leave the word to Mr. Nicola Berni.
Thank you, Paola. Thank you, Giovanni and Andrew, for kind invitation. My name is Nicola Berni. I'm an environmental engineer, and I'll explain something hopefully quite interesting, trying to connect among the previous presentation of Guido Bernardi on reliable hydrometeorological monitoring systems. And then afterwards, Rudy Ruggeri with the other issues about the geological activities. I'll try to focus mainly on 4 topics. Every territory should deal with its future of development and well-being, addressing risk prevention and citizen safety as priorities. Then, in modern society, crisis management requires an integrated and multidisciplinary approach. Italian civil protection, with its undisputed ability to manage emergencies, surely must further develop risk forecasting and prevention. So other activities rather than just following emergencies. And then, unfortunately, these activities are not political priorities. So technicians and people working in risk usually have to find synergies, policies and funding available today to go on these topics. In Europe, Italy is surely one of the most risk-on areas. Together with Iceland, we share the presence of almost every kind of natural risk. And if we want to analyze in terms of severity and frequency, this kind of risks, earthquakes, floods, and landslides are mainly important in order to cope with the civil protection issues. Ora c'è un monitor sopra. Ah, ovviamente. Okay. Thank you. Historically, Italy is a very risk-prone area, as we said before, and many events occur, unfortunately, every year. These some statistics. I leave you the slides so you don't have to write anything, but lot of areas have problems about all the natural risks. And these last years, a lot of databases, also geographical systems are available in order to try to understand, also zooming in each part of Italy, the statistics of every kind of hazard, vulnerability, and exposure. Civil protection in Italy has the mandate to safeguard human life and health, goods, national heritage, human settlements, animals, and the environment from both natural and man-made disasters. Legislation starts in 1982 with the first law, and then in 2018 we had a brand new code for civil protection organization. Activities are prevention, prediction forecast, emergency management, and recovery. We'll deal briefly now, and then today you will see also in Regional Civil Protection Center in Foligno some of these activities with my colleague Francesco Ponziani, a geologist that will be with you all the afternoon. It's not a task assigned at a single administration, but in Italy, civil protection has many players, many organizations and subjects, public, scientific, academic, and also civil society. Also, privates can have a role, scientific community, and so on. It's a complex function in a comprehensive system. So not a task assigned to a single administration or a military corps. Or like that. Events are divided in three kinds of events: local level events that can be dealt by the mayor of the city, provincial and regional level emergencies, and then national level emergencies. Usually you start bottom up, activating the civil protection scene with the subsidiarity, so helping the lower level from the upper level. Authorities are the Prime Minister, the regional governor, and then the mayor of the city. I was saying that the main challenge in civil protection is not always following a crisis or an emergency, but try to do something first. So the main challenge is prevention. Prevention and preparedness. I will tell you something about early warning systems that we have seen something previously from Guido Bernardi, and then I will focus a bit in civil protection planning. Early warning, we have seen the chain of activities, and there's a coordination center in Rome, and each region has a alerting center. You will see today in real life the Umbria region alerting system center, and starts from weather forecast and goes to the meteorological and hydrological modeling, the trying to understand the ground effects, and then the emission of bulletins and warnings. Lot of interaction among different kind and technologies for monitoring. So ground-based stations, meteorological radars, satellite images, and so on. And also platforms in order to give decision support for authorities in order to understand what to do, hopefully before something bad happens. This is the center that you are going to visit today. This is the Umbria Region Civil Protection Center. It was built after the 1997 earthquake that hit Umbria and Marche region. And you can find there all the operative parts of this work. The nice building is seismic isolated and hosts the operational room and the alerting service. In order to function, we need procedures. This is the example of Umbria region early warning procedures. They are homogeneous in all Italy, because in 2016, also to understand how to better communicate to the public this kind of activities, there was a work together with the National Civil Protection Department and regions. I was part of the group that wrote the guidelines. You find the alerting color, that means all the same from north to south Italy, and this is the procedure. The aim is to activate the attention, pre-alarm, and alarm phases in municipality civil protection plans, in order to understand if we need at the local level to close that underpass or to evacuate that house, and so on. So very deterministic, I would say, and on-off activities, starting from a probabilistic and very complex scenario that we need to build. We need to build this scenario according to what science provides to us in order to understand in advance if a flood can occur or a landslide can activate it, and so on. This is the web page of the decision support platform in Umbria region, Allerta Meteo Umbria. And then I will pass now to the planning part, that in Italy is quite a complex part, because usually politicians say it's not so useful, or it's not, this is not print first covers of magazines and so on, because it costs few euros and is quite hidden work, but it's very important, because we have to imagine the risk scenarios. We have to write down in a simple way what to do. And the most difficult part is that everybody should be aware of what to do in certain circumstances. So an integrated strategic approach is required, together with the participation with the local communities and so on. In order to arrive to that activities, we were lucky enough, and Andrew had a role in this part when he was manager in the Umbria region, to have funds with European funds, 2017, 2007, 2013, to study better risks and to produce a multi-risk plan at regional level. Funding risk perspection studies with local communities. This is a study of 2013 with the northern part of the region activity with the population. And then the plan built on 3 modules. The first one is that the prevention multi-risk plan, in order to understand the interrelation among different risks, and also to collect all these data also at geographical system point of view. So to make accessible all the data, all the information for all the administration, also population. This is the example of the flood risk, in order to put together measures, structural and non-structural measures, together with urbanistic and soil use policies at regional scale, in order to understand where to build, what to delocalize maybe, but all in an integrated way. These are all the modules. I'm not going in detail on this, but all this plan is crucial for the operational room for civil protection. These are some pictures after the 2016 Central Italy earthquake. These are all the authorities for civil protection at regional scale that were together in order to make decisions how to deal with the emergency. And you will see that room and the other room close to that, where the technical job is done. This is the example of and pictures during the COVID-19 emergency. That was the focal point also for this not so common emergency. At regional level, we also produce guidelines in order to have homogeneous municipality level plans. And we have seen something before, the way of managing large dams in order to attenuate flood risks. A new way of planning for what I think today has to deal also with a different way of reading the territory. So, for example, the Agenda 2030 can be a useful way of reading a territory, and also in the prospect of sustainable development goals. This is an example of how Umbria region is in all these tasks compared to national level. And then you need also to produce indicators, not just to plan to put information in a document, but try to understand. This is an example of Val Nerina. It's a part in Umbria where you have Nera River and in the southeast part. You have also to deal with indicators in order to understand the resilience of the territory in terms of natural hazards. I'm in the last part of the presentation just to give you two examples of participated multi-level approach that can be useful for civil protection. One is the inner areas strategy. It's a strategy that give money to the very rural part in Italy in order to give better services in terms of health, transportation, and schools. It can be very useful because we can develop there also civil protection activities. Together with a new concept in the 2018 civil protection law, it's optimal civil protection territorial areas. It's a new way to find homogeneous areas at sub-regional level that can be very useful in order to do the very first activities during an emergency before the regional and national level come to give help at municipality level. These two are multi-level participated approaches and can be put together in order to find synergies in terms of funds and organization. Because, for example, the Orvieto territory is a very nice example of how these two activities can be together, and civil protection can have tools, funds, and instruments in order to be better prepared also in the prevention phase. That's it. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Thank you very much. Fatto Rudy, vieni pure.
Any other question? Any questions? No? It's hot? Okay. All right. Amore. Ok. Eccolo qua. So now we have hello. Bonjour tout le monde. Alors maintenant, on a le Centre national des géologistes. We have the National Council of Geologists, Mr. Rudy Ruggeri, and he will introduce himself. He will speak to him, to you about just 1 second.
The contribution of the geology.
Yeah. Okay. The presentation. Si vede la presentazione? Okay. Sorry about that. I want to be sure about that. Okay. So the National Council of Geologists, Mr. Rudy Ruggeri, I leave the word and I will go to work.
Hello, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. And then I hope I will not keep you, honestly, because you are very tired. I'm seeing your faces. So I will try to be short in the presentation, even though I have good things to say. But let me thank again all the organizers for this event, Professor Murad, Endro, Giovanni, Paola, all of you guys that organized this event. And I'm very pleased to be here today and representing the Italian National Geologists, Council of Geologists, which is the parliament of the geologists in Italy. And then I'm bringing greetings, warm greetings for all the council in place of the president. Franco Violi is not here today, but I'm bringing for you all the warm, really greetings for all the council.
And so I'm a geologist again, but by background, so I have over 30 years of environmental engineering and consulting experience. My areas of expertise wide between investigation, remediation of impacted site, risk management, natural risk management, property assessments. I've been working for international organization for the last 30 years. And I'm also, again, part of the Italian National Council of Geology. So very happy to be here. And then I will bring you through this presentation, which is the title. You can understand what is the meaning of this. And basically is the contribution of geologists in the management of natural and anthropogenic risks in a specific country like Italy that is really peculiar from the geological standpoint, and then is very also peculiar for the historical standpoint. This summer school, international summer school, is very well orientated in terms of recovering and then protecting the cultural heritage. And you are in the right place, in the right country to do that. And so let me introduce first the CNG, the Italian National Council of Geologists, what it is. I introduced a little bit before. It's been established in 1963. It's an institution representative body. So I'm here as a public servant, and this, the aim of the CNG is to protect the profession, of course, of the category of geology, guarantee the quality, provide training in a way that all the geologists are ready to tackle with all the challenges that we have on our territory. And we do a lot of webinars, activities, and of course, we want to really connect what we do as geologists with all the other disciplines like architects, engineers, and all that kind of stuff, because we need to work in a coordinated way, in a way that we can protect really the environment. And this has to be a multitasking and really scientific approach to the problems. This is just the 15 members, a picture of the 15 members of the boards of the geologists. Franco Violo is circled in the red circle. I'm in the top left, right side, and we have been elected because there is a normal election for being there, and we stay in charge 5 years. So I've been elected in 2020, and we stay in charge until 2025, and then there will be another election. And then hopefully we will be elected again. But again, so that's with a representation again of the parliament, again of the geologists in Italy. And some facts about what we are doing. As I said before, one of the aim of the geologists in Italy is really to promote, our category and train our staff. We have over 11,000 members of the geologists in Italy. We have 71 Eurogeo title. What is the Eurogeo title? The Eurogeo title is the title that all the geologists can take, and one is attributed this title. You can profess the geologist profession in all the 27 European countries. So it's very peculiar, interesting to get this title. And this is linked to the fact that, again, CNG is member of the European Federation of Geologists, which is the European Federation of Geologists that attribute this Eurogeo title. We participate as a geologist to a number of projects financed by the European community. Crown Geothermal is a geothermal project. NG is to promote the female young people to get into geoscience studies. Reflect is on geothermal ascent. RoboMiners is in mining. CRM geothermal is geothermal. 6 is the CO2 capture storage. So a lot of really interesting projects where all the CNG is supporting the European funds projects. I picked up a couple of things. PERC, for example, is this mineral standard reporting. So if you want to operate in your profession in the mining sector, you need to get a code, and PERC is a code. And we as CNG, we have promoted this thematic course that also you guys can attend and take this competent person position to run business for the mining sector, for example. And this is one of the initiatives we have done. Also, another interesting activities which is connected to the disaster, so the kind of things that we are to discuss right now, is that we, as CNG, with the Spanish delegation, we visited the La Palma and the Montana Bay volcano. 2 years ago, we had this big eruption, and this big eruption of lava really affected a lot of villages. And we worked with the Spanish delegation to prepare guidelines, and we gave the guidelines to the authorities. So the authorities used that guidance to protect, the people after the recovery phase of the volcano lava eruption. So, and then you can see here a lot of pictures that show, kind of activities that we have done in terms of seminars. So let me now take you through this concept of natural hazard risk management planning. So we are talking about natural hazards, right? And so, I want to bring you into this Science of Disaster Risk Management 2020 publication, Acting Today and Protecting Tomorrow, which is a publication that has been published again in 2020 and has been the result of the work done by over 300, people, experts in disaster risk management. And in this presentation, this publication present the process, why and how you can manage a disaster in a natural event or anthropogenic, event. So this will go through definition, assessment, management, planning, and outcome. So let's go through definition first. What's as a risk? How we can define a risk before to manage, a disaster? How we define a risk, which is different than a danger, right? If I put a bottle of fuel here on this table, this is a danger. This is a dangerous thing. It's not a risky. It becomes a risky when I put an exposure close to this danger, which I put a people or an infrastructure or a property or environment close to this danger, then I create a risk. So this means that the danger has to be connected to an exposure factor. And an exposure factor normally is people, infrastructure, housing, production capacity, all that kind of stuff. And the risk is defined as a probability and the severity of an adverse effect to health, property of the environment. So that's a kind of risk, right? And we can have natural hazards or anthropogenic hazards. So natural hazard could be an earthquake, could be a flooding, could be a volcano eruption, all that kind of stuff. And an anthropogenic risk could be an oil spill, for example, could be, for example, terrorist attack, that kind of stuff, right? And both things have to be managed throughout this, what I call disaster risk management. And this disaster risk management has been set up by the Disaster Risk Management Knowledge Center that's, worked on this, defining this kind of process. The process provides, after the definition, the visualization of the risk. So we need to map the risk, set up our mapping, so we know where there are the risks and how to tackle with those risks. And then we need to manage those. How we manage those risks then? And the disaster risk management is, to ensure that who will taking care about the risks, so will protect the environment, will protect, the cultural heritage, all this kind of stuff. And in order to do that, we need to integrate all the systems and in vertical and horizontal way, create, set up the key impact indicators. And when doing that, we manage all those risks. And in essence, basically, we need an early warning system. And then Guido spoke about that before. And also Nicola, a little bit regarding the Italian civil protection. We need an early warning system that alerts the people, population about a risk that is coming. We need air mapping that allow us to define how to tackle with those risks. And then we need to create the stakeholder engagement and communication in order to manage properly all those risks. So that is the process that comes from this disaster risk management planning, which I think is pretty interesting. Coming back to Italy then, well, as I said before, it's very peculiar, our country, and according to the publication Natural Hazard Risk Atlas, Italy is the 8th country in the world and first in Europe in terms of risk with regard of natural events. So it's pretty peculiar, because we have earthquakes, again, we have flooding, we have, it's a not spot for climate change events. We have volcanoes. So it's really a gym for the people that want to manage natural risks. We have a lot of risks, natural risks in Italy. And this is also emphasized by this institution. ISPRA, for example, Istituto per la Protezione del Rischio dell'Ambiente, it's an institution that basically collect data and create mapping about the risks we have. On the left side, for example, you can see this map of Italy with brown, orange color, for example. This is the areas of high, let's say, risky for landslides. You can see basically 2/3 of our country is at risk. So, and then in terms of population, on the right side, you can see the numbers about, you know, how many people are affected by landslides, by flooding. So it's really, really a risky country. And of course, we have the Dipartimento della Protezione Civile, which is the Italian Civil Protection Department, which has been introduced before by Nicola. And of course, this department, I mean, coordinate the efforts when we have, you know, a situation of disaster. They intervene, and the geologists, they help the Civil Protection Department to tackle with those risks. And, you know, they operate with a lot of structure, the National Fire and Rescue Service, the Armed Forces, scientific community, Italian Red Cross, all those institutions are coordinated by the Italian Civil Protection Department in order to manage the risks. And it works again is an integrated system. They coordinate all the efforts, and we have 3 things we need to consider: prevention, response, and recovery. These are the 3 stages we manage in natural disasters. And the role of geologists, I mean, is pretty crucial. We intervene in the initial disaster notification. We support the civil protection guidelines, search and rescue operations. We need to search and rescue people that are affected by the natural disasters. Mobilization and contribution of volunteers, setting up emergency shelters, these scenarios, all the kind of stuff. So geologists are really an important particular, let's say, meaning and then presence in all the organization of what is called the PEC. So is the Piano di Emergenza Comunale, is the emergency city plan, which is important to be set up in order to give to the population a plan under which there are all the guidelines, and they have to follow those guidelines to protect themselves after a disaster. And this is, for example, we, as a geologist, where we intervene, we have multiple risks: seismic risk, hydrogeological risk, volcanic risk, environmental risk, risk of landslides, a lot of risks, right? And you need the geologist to mapping those risks and understanding where is happening something, and then derive from this, you know, the organization and coordination of the activities for recovery. For example, when we have a natural risks, you need to set up, I mean, the areas, the waiting areas to collect the people after a disaster. And you need to set those areas, and you can put the areas everywhere. There are areas that are good, areas that are not good. You can't put an area, for example, at hydrogeological risk, like you can see in this picture on the right side, is just close to the river. It's crazy. You know, we had a flooding, and you put, you know, an area close to the river. So it could be another fluvial event. So you need to put these waiting areas and recovery areas for the people very far from all those risks. And you need geologists that help you to map, you know, where are those risks. And in fact, this is another example of where you need to put this COC, which is the Centro Operativo Comunale, so is the city operative center, when you need to tackle with those, you know, recovery phase. And again, you can't put a COC in the middle of an urban area or in a geological area at risk. You need to put those areas in a stable place where, you know, you can work collecting the people that have been affected and protect them in the second phase of the event. This is another example as well. So we need to put the COC in a very far away risking area, so then we can, you know, tackle and manage, you know, the recovery phase in a proper way for the sake of the people, of course, but also the cultural courage. That is another example, for example, in terms of contamination of the area. If we contaminate the water, you need to set different risk scenarios. You need to map those scenarios in a way that you can collect the data and manage those data properly. Landslides, same thing. You need to use satellite images map the area, risking areas using the satellite images, but then you go on the field and then verify those assumptions and create and identify specifically in a detailed manner where are the areas that can, create, for example, a debris flow, like happened in Bardonecchia, 2 weeks ago here in Italy. So it was, I mean, a bunch of gravels put on the slope. And then when we had 50 or 60 millimeters of water, in 12, hours, then that created debris flow, and then alluvium flooded, all the village. So you need to map in detailed manner where are the risking areas so you can tackle with them. This is an example of what happened, for example, in an area. As you can see here, the river basin. So that is the river basin. So all the catchment area of the water from a mountain. And you can see an hotel has been built up exactly at the point of confluence of the river basin. So all the water catched by the area, I mean, and as an exit point, and the hotel has been built up exactly on that exit point. That's a crazy planning, and they have to ask the geologist where are the risking area. If they ask the geologist, we could say not building up, a building exactly at the point of confluence on an exit point from the river basin. It's crazy. In fact, what happened is that 2 years ago, this hotel has been affected by the flooding, and then likely, I mean, no one was injured, but has been pretty, I mean, a serious event. And then all the people that were in the hotel that were very, very at risk. So the importance of geology in urban planning, defining those risks and put, the urban area very far from the natural risks. And this is finally last thing. Basically, I probably have been very, let's say, short and concise, but again, seeing your faces, I thought it was better really to speed up. And this is the traditional, this picture is a little bit provocative. This is the traditional role of geologist on the left side. So the kind of, technical that go on the field, look at the rocks, maybe lick the rocks, smell the, the soil, which is something that, it seems pretty animal, but the geologists, they do that. But we need to move from being, I mean, a kind of profession like this, being a more manager on the right side. So managing, those risks coming from the ground, speaking with other, disciplines, like people like Guido. I mean, his company that's managing, hydrogeological events and measurements. We working with those companies, coordinating their efforts with architects, coordinating their efforts with engineers, coordinating all together, having a more managerial, let's say, skill, and then, setting up, the way to manage very well, the projects and the risks. And finally, this is some expert opinions on natural hazards through time. Then I leave this to you on your thinking about what happened, for the dinosaurs, and then they said, 65 billion years ago, they was extinct, and they said, relax everyone, it's just an asteroid. Asteroids are natural, there is no problem. And in fact, they were extinct by that. The same things happen in Pompeii, right? Volcanic lava is natural. So, and in fact, I mean, an entire city was covered by ashes, volcanoes ashes, and died, thousands of people, underestimating, the real risk, natural risk. Titanic as well, right? Titanic, they said, good news. It seems that we, hit an iceberg. And an iceberg is a natural, yes. And in fact, the result was being that it sank. And I mean, how many people really died on that. So in essence, also today, there are people that are negationists about climate change events, for example. And that's really important. And they are saying it's all natural. It's natural that, we have ices on the North Pole and the South Pole that is shrinking. And then it's natural. Well, but if we don't manage these natural events in a proper way, if we don't use and look into the back for looking to the future, we really risk to incur in difficult and serious problems for us. We should be really wiser on that. Thank you for your attention. I hope I didn't bother you enough.
Sembra che sparisce, sembra che sparisce, fatto sempre.
Questions or now or because I imagine happy to take any questions.
You are coming with us, yeah? In the civil protection?
It depends if it's tomorrow. Yes. But I will change my.
So you have the occasion to speak to them inside the bus if you have any question or so he told me something. Andrew, che devo dire che non mi ricordo? Che devo dire? Ah, la foto. Can we take a picture all together?